When a boy changes into a man and a girl changes into a woman, they are sexually mature, able to become parents, able to produce the next generation of human beings. And this change happens to us all by our early teens. Well, one vital fact of life is that making love makes babies. And nature has the most elegant and efficient arrangement to ensure this. Now, amazingly, baby girls are born with all the eggs in their ovaries that they are ever going to release in their fertile lives. In fact, the baby girl has about 100 times more eggs than she's ever really likely to need. As she grows up, ovaries in a girl's body grow too. And at puberty, it's about somewhere between 11 or 13, they begin to produce the female hormones. And these affect the girl's body. They cause, first of all, her breasts to develop and her hips to widen so that they'll be ready for childbirth. And inside her, the uterus and vagina grow to adult size. The girl, too, grows taller, and she reaches her final height about the time that her periods start. Then the ovaries start to release an egg. About once every 4, where the egg is released, forms a temporary gland, and this pours out a hormone which acts on the lining of the womb to thicken it. So if that egg is fertilized, the lining of the womb is just ready to receive it. This drawing shows a section through one of the 2 tubes. The egg can be released from either side. The egg is really very small, about 1/4 the size of a full stop on a sheet of print. But in these pictures, we've had to draw it larger, or else you wouldn't be able to see it. When the egg's released into the fallopian tube, it's wafted gently down towards the womb or uterus. If that egg is not fertilized within 24 hours, it breaks down. And after 2 weeks, that little temporary gland in the ovary stops working. This causes a sudden change in the hormones and has the effect of making the lining of the woman's womb break down and be shed, and that's her period. After that, the whole monthly cycle starts again. Now, women aren't machines, and nobody's periods come exactly every 4 weeks. Especially at the beginning of their reproductive life, girls find their periods tend to be a bit irregular, while the whole system settles down. As boys get to adolescence, somewhere between about 12 and 14, their testicles grow and start to produce the male sex hormone, testosterone. The boy grows, his muscles develop and his shoulders broaden, and his larynx grows too, so his voice gets deeper. At the same time, the penis grows longer and thicker, and the testicles develop to their adult size. There's about 1/4 of a mile of microscopic tubule in each testicle, and these start to produce sperm. In contrast to girls who finish their growth by the time the ovaries are producing eggs and they're having periods, boys usually continue to grow for at least a year, usually more, after their testicles are producing sperm. Vast numbers of these sperm pass along these tubes called the vas deferens to the little sacs, seminal vesicles, which are placed just behind the bladder, and that's where the sperms are stored until they're ready to be ejaculated. Now, although their anatomy looks so different, when men and women are sexually aroused, their bodies react, well, in much the same way. There's a huge increase in the blood supply to the pelvic organs. In the man, this causes the penis to become stiff and erect. And in the woman, the extra blood in the wall of the vagina causes it to secrete a kind of lubricating fluid. Now, this means that if the man and woman do go on to make love, have sexual intercourse, the penis is able to enter the woman's vagina. During intercourse, the man's penis thrusts vigorously inside the vagina, and if the couple are really aroused and want to make love, this is an intensely enjoyable experience. The man at the climax of his excitement ejaculates about a teaspoonful of semen, and this spurts out from the end of his penis and contains about 500 million sperm, which are carried along by a fluid which also nourishes the live sperm. And in lovemaking, these millions of mobile little cells, which are greatly magnified here, usually swim very quickly through the neck of the womb, right into the womb itself, and enter the fallopian tubes. And this happens in just a few minutes. So if an egg is present, one of these millions of sperm is really very likely to join up with it. And this is called fertilization. And so the nucleus of the sperm joins up with the nucleus of the ovum. And the fertilized egg has the characteristics of both the mother and the father. If a couple make love 4 or even 5 days before the woman releases her egg, the sperm could still be alive and swimming, and so able to fertilize that egg when it reaches the fallopian tube. And that's why it's really very difficult to give the exact time in the month when a woman is fertile. When the egg is fertilized, it starts to divide, and this tiny clump of cells takes probably 5 to 7 days to roll gently down the fallopian tube. Then it implants in the velvety lining of the womb and develops into a baby. From this moment, when the fertilized egg implants, the woman is pregnant. Whenever 2 people have sexual intercourse, if they don't want a pregnancy to result, they will need to use some sort of birth control. Now, in our society, some people think that the experience of lovemaking should be saved for marriage. And some young people themselves feel that they're not ready for such an intense experience too early. Certainly, the decision to make love is always an important one, never casual, because a baby, a new human being, may be the result. Advice about birth control is free and confidential from family planning clinics and from most family doctors. It's possible to go to a clinic or a doctor out of your own area. After all, everybody's sexual life is a private matter, and some people prefer to talk to a doctor that they don't see often. Doctors and family planning clinic staff know that some people decide to make love when they're young, and for them especially, it's vital that they don't have a child before they're ready. After all, being a parent is at least a 20-year job, and it's essential that both parents feel able to love their child and cherish it, whether it's strong and healthy, or whether perhaps it has a handicap and so needs extra special care. Both partners are always welcome at family planning clinics, and as lovemaking involves 2 people, so obviously does birth control. Now, in general, all the methods of birth control aim to stop that meeting of the egg and sperm inside the woman's body, or else to prevent the implantation of the fertilized egg in the lining of the woman's womb. The commonest method used is the sheath, perhaps because it's so easy and private to get. Sheaths can be bought from chemists, men's hairdressers, from some supermarkets and slot machines, usually in men's toilets. The sheath can be obtained free from family planning clinics. Sheaths are made of thin rubber and they're shaped to fit the man's penis. The rubber's very stretchy so that it fits all men. They don't have to be measured. And the sheath is only intended to be used once. At the beginning of lovemaking, the man needs to unroll the sheath on his erect penis, and the penis must be completely enclosed. The important thing is that this end bit of the sheath must be empty of air, because that's the part that's going to catch the semen when he ejaculates, and so prevent any of the sperm entering the woman's womb. After the man ejaculates or comes, all the blood that previously made the penis stiff leaves it quite suddenly, and the penis becomes soft and floppy and its usual size. So it's really important that the man holds the rim of the sheath firmly against his body while he withdraws from inside the woman, and this prevents the sheath from slipping off. The sheath has an important extra bonus. It's the only method that gives really good protection against venereal disease, stopping its passage from one partner to the other during sexual intercourse. And you know, it's not really at all easy to know if your partner has an infection. You probably know that these are diseases which can cause serious long-term effects for health and fertility in both men and women. And in girls especially, those delicate little fallopian tubes can get infected and scarred, sometimes without the girl feeling ill at all. I suppose the only way for a couple to know that there's no chance of any venereal infection is for them to be sexually faithful to each other. And if there's any thought that either partner might have got an infection, it's always worthwhile getting checked up at a VD clinic. So, in general, we can say that the sheath is a really good method of family planning, and it's very effective. especially if the couple use it every time they make love. Now, in this country, women can only get the pill and other effective female methods of contraception either through their doctor or through a family planning clinic. They can't just go into the chemist and buy them. Also, not every method of family planning is suitable for every woman, so expert advice is really essential. Now, as I said earlier, a woman's body works in a monthly cycle, and therefore it's necessary for her to take the pills in a monthly pattern also. The doctor usually suggests that a woman starts her first packet of pills on the first day of her period. The pills are neatly packed with 21 pills in each pack. The woman takes 1 pill a day for 21 days, and then she has a 1-week break in which she will usually have her period. This is usually shorter, lighter, and less painful than normal. And what's more, women who take the birth control pill get far less trouble with those feelings of weepiness and irritability that often occur just before a period. So the pill is a very effective method of contraception if taken carefully. It may have some effect on the neck of the womb, and so any woman who takes the pill should have a cervical smear test taken at regular intervals. One of the hormones in the birth pill, called estrogen, just slightly affects the way the blood clots, and this can, very occasionally, cause a serious condition called thrombosis. It's really only a risk in older women, especially those who smoke or who have high blood pressure. But for younger women, especially those under 35, the risk is very tiny. In fact, they'd have to take the pill for 15 years to run the same health risk that they run with having 1 pregnancy. Now, another type of birth pill is called the mini pill. This does not contain any estrogen, and so it does not affect blood clotting. It just contains 1 hormone, progesterone. And it works by making the mucus in the neck of the womb very thick, so that the sperm can't struggle through. It also has an effect on the lining of the womb, so that if the egg was fertilized, the lining would be unsuitable for that egg to implant. The woman takes the mini pill every single day, right through her period, though she starts the first pack on the first day of her period. Unfortunately, the woman's body breaks this hormone down rather fast, and she needs to take the pill within about 3 hours at the same time every day. So for this pill to be effective, the woman needs to be a very dependable pill taker. For either type of pill to work as a contraceptive, the woman needs to organise her life so that she takes the pill regularly, month after month. And she has to go back to the doctor or the clinic for a blood pressure check and a new supply of pills, usually about every 3 to 6 months. Now, the cap is really the woman's version of the sheath. It fits snugly over the neck of the womb. And as women don't come in exactly the same size, each woman has to go to the clinic or the doctor to find exactly the right size for her. The cap is made of rubber with a flat spring in this rubber rim. In the clinic, the nurse teaches the woman to slip the cap into her vagina and push it up to cover the neck of her womb. When it's in place, neither the man nor the woman can feel it during lovemaking. A special cream which kills sperm is spread on the cap before it's put in place. It can be popped in up to 3 hours before a couple make love. But the woman must not take the cap out too soon, because it takes 6 hours for the chemical in the cream to kill all the sperm. After that, she takes the cap out, washes it under the tap, and then puts it back in its box until she needs it again. Because unlike the sheath, the cap can be used on numerous occasions. They usually last at least a year. A woman needs to be checked up to make sure the fit's still good about every year or so. The intrauterine device, or coil, is another very effective method of family planning, but it's not usually ideal for women who haven't had babies. It's a little piece of germ-free plastic, particularly shaped to fit into the womb. And lots of types, like this one, have a bit of fine copper wire wrapped around the stem. The coil is fitted into the womb by the doctor. It's a bit uncomfortable for the woman, rather like a period pain. In the womb, the copper dissolves slowly and stops the sperm moving, and the coil also affects the lining of the womb to stop an egg implanting. Coils can stay in place for several years before they need changing. Fortunately, if a woman has a coil, she's more likely to get an infection in the womb and into these delicate little fallopian tubes. Young women seem especially likely to have this problem, which is why the coil is not really a first-choice contraceptive for them. Some chemicals kill after a month, and she has to go back to the doctor or the clinic for a blood pressure check and a new supply of pills, usually about every 3 to 6 months. Now, the cap is really the woman's version of the sheath. It fits snugly over the neck of the womb. And as women don't come in exactly the same size, each woman has to go to the clinic or the doctor to find exactly the right size for her. The cap is made of rubber with a flat spring in this rubber rim. In the clinic, the nurse teaches the woman to slip the cap into her vagina and push it up to cover the neck of her womb. When it's in place, neither the man nor the woman can feel it during lovemaking. A special cream which kills sperm is spread on the cap before it's put in place. It can be popped in up to 3 hours before a couple make love. But the woman must not out too soon, because it takes 6 hours for the chemical in the cream to kill all the sperm. After that, she takes the cap out, washes it under the tap, and then puts it back in its box until she needs it again. Because unlike the sheath, the cap can be used on numerous occasions. They usually last at least a year. A woman needs to be checked up if it's still good about every year or so. The intrauterine device, or coil, is another very effective method of family planning, but it's not usually ideal for women who haven't had babies. It's a little piece of germ-free plastic, particularly shaped to fit into the womb. And lots of types, like this one, have a bit of fine copper wire wrapped around the stem. The coil is fitted into the womb by the doctor. It's a bit uncomfortable for the woman, rather like a period pain. In the womb, the copper dissolves slowly and stops the sperm moving, and the coil also affects the lining of the womb to stop an egg implanting. Coils can stay in place for several years before they need changing. Unfortunately, if a woman has a coil, she's more likely to get an infection in the womb and into these delicate little fallopian tubes. Young women seem especially likely to have this problem, which is why the coil is not really a first-choice contraceptive for them. Some chemicals kill sperm. They're available either as cream or as pessaries or foam, which the woman can put into the vagina just before cream of cap. None of these chemicals are safe enough to be used on their own. They always must be. For some couples, no pills or devices are acceptable. For personal or religious reasons, the natural family planning methods. This means learns to recognize the body every day so that she can tell when she's just about to release an egg. This isn't easy, and the couple need to be very carefully taught. That's all in times of stress or after pregnancy, rather erratic, and so it's a difficult method to use. That if the man withdraws his penis, he ejaculates pregnancy. But sadly, this is also difficult, especially if he's experienced. And the couple need to be very carefully taught. At some times, in the teenage years or in times of stress or after pregnancy, the woman's periods become really rather erratic, and so it's a difficult method to use efficiently. Expert advice is always essential. Some people think that if the man withdraws his penis before he ejaculates, there's no chance of a pregnancy. But sadly, this just isn't true. Perhaps because there are some sperm present before the main ejaculation. Also, control when he ejaculates or comes, especially if he's young and rather inexperienced. So withdrawal, or being careful, is really not a reliable bit of family planning. Sometimes a couple make love without planning their, or perhaps their method, the sheath splits, or the girl finds she's forgotten to take her birth control pill. It still prevents a pregnancy. The family or GP, very short course of pills, lasts only 24 hours. And this has the effect of altering the lining of the womb, so that if an egg had been fertilized, it wouldn't. This is really for use in an emergency only. It's not used as a regular method of contraception. It's called the post-coital pill, or morning after pill. It's very important that the girl gets to 4 hours if possible. 72 hours of unprotected intercourse. And pregnancy is not just unromantic, it's shattering. If making love is truly an expression of love, we need to look after each other. And that other invisible third person, a possible baby, and make sure that we use some form of contraception. We humans are too special just to be accidents. So remember, whenever you need help or advice, your doctor or the family planning clinic staff will be very pleased to help you. Most people need this information at some time in their lives. Some of you may need it now. Some perhaps not for 5 or 10 years when you're married. Most of us want to plan when we have our babies, and that's most important if we're going to be able to enjoy them and give them that loving attention that small children need.